Linda pressed her forehead against the steering wheel of her old Honda and took a deep breath. The check engine light had been on for 3 weeks now, but there was no money to fix it. Not yet, maybe next month, or the month after that. She glanced at the crumpled $20 bill sitting in the cup holder. It was all she had until Friday, and today was only Tuesday. But she'd made a promise, and some promises you just can't break. Not to your kid, especially not on their birthday. "Mom, are we really going?" 10-year-old Mia's voice came from the back seat, filled with hope and disbelief. Linda turned around and saw her daughter's face pressed against the window, staring at the neon sign of Danny's Diner across the parking lot. The sign flickered slightly, just like it had been doing for the past 15 years. This place wasn't fancy. The booths had duct tape covering the tiers and the vinyl, and the floors were always a little sticky. But it was Mia's favorite place in the world. "Yeah, baby, we're really going." Linda grabbed the 20 and stepped out of the car. Mia practically bounced across the parking lot. She was wearing the nicest thing she owned, a yellow dress that used to belong to her cousin. Linda had stayed up late the night before, sewing up a small tear near the hem and washing it twice to make sure it looked perfect. The dress was a little too big, but Mia didn't seem to care. She was just happy to be celebrating. Linda worked 2 jobs. During the day, she cleaned offices downtown, scrubbing toilets and emptying trash cans for people who never looked her in the eye. At night, 3 times a week, she stocked shelves at the grocery store. Her back ached constantly, and her hands were raw from all the chemicals and cold. She was 32 years old but felt 50. Last year, Mia's birthday had come and gone without celebration. Linda's car had broken down that week and every penny went to repairs. Mia said she understood. She was always so understanding, so patient. But Linda saw the disappointment in her daughter's eyes and it broke something inside her. She swore that this year would be different, even if she only had $20. Even if it meant eating rice and beans for the rest of the week. The bell above the diner door chimed as they walked in. The smell of coffee and bacon grease filled the air. It was just past noon and the lunch rush was in full swing. Business people in suits sat in some booths tapping away on their phones. A group of construction workers laughed loudly at the counter. Families with young children filled the tables near the windows. "Can I sit anywhere?" Linda asked the waitress who rushed past with 3 plates balanced on her arms. "Yeah, honey. Grab whatever's open." Linda spotted an empty booth in the corner and guided Mia toward it. The vinyl seat squeaked as they slid in. Mia immediately grabbed the laminated menu, even though Linda knew she'd already decided what she wanted. The kid had been talking about the cheeseburger and fries for a week straight. "Can I really get whatever I want?" Mia asked, her eyes scanning the menu like it was a treasure map. Linda's chest tightened. "Within reason, sweetie. We're sharing fries, okay?" "Okay." Mia didn't look disappointed. She never did. That was the thing about her daughter that both made Linda proud and broke her heart. Mia had learned not to ask for much. She'd learned to be grateful for whatever little she got. What kind of childhood was that? Linda looked around the diner. At the table next to them, a family of 4 was ordering appetizers, entrees, and desserts without even glancing at the prices. The mom was laughing at something the dad said, completely carefree. Their kids, probably around Mia's age, were playing games on expensive tablets. 2 booths down, a businessman sat alone. He was older, maybe in his 60s, with silver hair combed back neatly. His suit looked expensive, the kind you see in magazine ads. A gold watch caught the light every time he moved his hand. He was reading through some papers, occasionally making notes with a fancy pen. Everything about him screamed money. The kind of money Linda couldn't even imagine. She felt a familiar twist of envy in her stomach, then immediately felt guilty for it. It wasn't right to resent other people's success. Everyone had their own struggles. Still, it was hard not to wonder what life would be like without constantly worrying about money, without checking her bank account 3 times before buying groceries, without lying awake at night doing math in her head, trying to figure out which bill could wait another week. The waitress appeared at their table, pad in hand. Her name tag said Betty, and she had kind eyes. "What can I get you, ladies?" "Can I have a cheeseburger with pickles?" Mia asked politely. "And French fries." "You sure can, sweetheart." "And for you, ma'am." Linda's stomach rumbled. She'd skipped breakfast to save money. "I'll have the same. And we'll take water to drink." Betty wrote it down without judgment. Linda appreciated that. Some waitresses made faces when people ordered water instead of soda. like they were somehow failing as customers. Coming right up. As Betty walked away, Mia pulled out a small box of crayons from her pocket and started coloring on the paper placemat. The diner gave them out to kids covered in games and pictures to color. Mia drew carefully, her tongue poking out slightly in concentration. Linda watched her daughter and felt her eyes start to burn with tears. She blinked them back quickly. No crying, not today. Today was supposed to be happy, Mom? Mia looked up from her coloring. Yeah, baby? This is the best birthday ever. Linda's throat closed up. They hadn't done anything yet. They were just sitting in a cheap diner about to eat a meal that cost less than $20. And Mia thought it was the best birthday ever. I'm glad, sweetie. You deserve it. Can we sing happy birthday? Like quietly. Linda looked around. The diner was noisy enough that nobody would really notice. Sure, why not? They sang together in hushed voices, Linda's voice cracking slightly on the high notes. A woman at a nearby table smiled at them. An older man gave Mia a little wave. These small moments of kindness from strangers always surprised Linda. The world could be harsh, but sometimes it was also unexpectedly gentle. Their food arrived faster than expected. Betty set down 2 plates with generous portions. The burgers were thick and juicy, the fries golden and crispy. Mia's eyes went wide. This looks so good. Eat up, birthday girl. They ate slowly, making it last. Mia talked about school, about her best friend Amy, about the book she was reading. Linda listened and nodded, storing away every detail. These were the moments that mattered, not the fancy vacations or expensive toys that other kids had. Just this. Just being together. Linda reached into her purse and pulled out the $20 bill. She smoothed it out carefully and placed it on the edge of the table where Betty would see it when she came back. The food would be about $15 with tax. That left $5 for tip. It was more than the standard 15%. But Betty had been kind, and Linda knew what it was like to work for tips. I need to use the bathroom real quick, Linda said, sliding out of the booth. You okay here for a minute? Mia nodded, already reaching for another French fry. I'll keep coloring. Linda walked toward the back of the diner where the restrooms were located. The hallway was narrow and dimly lit. The bathroom was small but clean enough. She used the toilet, then washed her hands, staring at her reflection in the spotted mirror. She looked tired, more than tired, exhausted. There were dark circles under her eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. Her uniform from the cleaning job was stuffed in her work bag, because she'd have to go straight there after this. No time to go home and change. There was never enough time. But Mia was happy. That was what mattered. Linda splashed some cold water on her face and dried it with a rough paper towel. Time to go back out there and finish this birthday lunch. Maybe they'd even split a slice of pie if there was enough money left over. Maybe. She pushed open the bathroom door and walked back toward their booth, already smiling at the thought of surprising Mia with dessert. But as she got closer, she noticed something was wrong. Mia's face had gone pale. She was sitting very still, her crayon frozen in midair. Linda's heart started to race. Mia, what's wrong? That's when she looked at the table. The $20 bill was gone. Linda's stomach dropped. The $20 bill that had been sitting right there on the table was gone. Completely gone. She looked on the floor thinking maybe it had fallen. Nothing. Mia, where's the money? Did it fall? Mia's bottom lip started trembling. Her eyes filled with tears. Mom, a man took it. What? Linda's voice came out sharper than she intended. What man? Mia pointed across the diner with a shaking finger. The businessman in the expensive suit. The one with the silver hair and the gold watch. He was sitting calmly in his booth, reading his newspaper like nothing had happened. That man. He came over here when you were gone. Linda felt like someone had punched her in the chest. Her vision actually blurred for a second. This couldn't be happening. Not today. Not on Mia's birthday. Not when they had so little to begin with. Are you absolutely sure? Linda grabbed Mia's hand across the table. Yes. Tears spilled down Mia's cheeks. He walked over here really fast and took the money. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. Something hot and fierce rose up in Linda's chest. It was rage, pure and simple. How dare someone steal from them? How dare someone in an expensive suit, someone who clearly had more money than he knew what to do with, take the last $20 from a mother and daughter who had nothing? Stay here, Linda said through gritted teeth. She slid out of the booth and started walking toward the man's table. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. The diner seemed to get quieter as she approached him. Or maybe that was just in her head. The businessman looked up from his newspaper as she reached his booth. His expression was calm, almost bored. "Excuse me," Linda said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I need to talk to you. Can I help you with something?" His voice was smooth, educated. The kind of voice used to giving orders and having them followed. "You took money from my table. $20. I need it back." The man's eyebrows raised slightly. "I'm sorry, I think you're mistaken." "I'm not mistaken. My daughter saw you. You came to our table while I was in the bathroom and you took our money." Several people at nearby tables had stopped eating. They were watching now. Linda felt her face burning with humiliation, but she couldn't stop. She wouldn't stop. "Ma'am, I don't know what your daughter thinks she saw, but I certainly didn't take any money from your table." The man's voice remained calm, which somehow made everything worse. "Don't call my daughter a liar." Linda's voice was getting louder. She couldn't help it. "You took our money. That's stealing. That's a crime." The man carefully folded his newspaper and set it aside. "I understand you're upset, but I really think there's been a misunderstanding here." "There's no misunderstanding. Give me back my $20. "I don't have your $20. Betty the waitress hurried over, her face concerned. "Is everything okay here?" "No, everything is not okay." Linda turned to her. "This man stole money from my table while I was in the bathroom. My daughter saw him do it." Betty looked between Linda and the businessman, clearly uncomfortable. "Mr. Whitmore, is this true?" "So he was a regular here." "Of course he was. People with money always got treated better, always got the benefit of the doubt." The man, Mr. Whitmore, sighed like he was dealing with something very tiresome. "Of course it's not true. I've been sitting here the entire time reading my paper and drinking my coffee. I haven't been near her table." "You're lying." Linda's voice cracked. She hated how desperate she sounded, but that $20 was everything. It was Mia's birthday lunch. It was gas money to get to work. It was groceries for the next few days. "Why would you do this? You clearly have money. Why would you steal from us?" A manager appeared then, a middle-aged man with a concerned expression. His name tag said Tom. What seems to be the problem here? Before Linda could answer, the businessman spoke up. "This woman is accusing me of stealing money from her table. I've done no such thing. I think perhaps she's lost her money and is looking for someone to blame." "I didn't lose it. He took it." Linda pointed at him, her finger shaking. "My daughter saw everything." Tom looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice. You're disturbing the other customers." "Disturbing the other customers? He stole from us and I'm the problem? Ma'am, please. Let's talk about this calmly." Linda looked back at Mia. Her daughter was still sitting in the booth crying quietly, her birthday lunch forgotten in front of her. Other kids at nearby tables were staring. Their parents were whispering. Someone was recording on their phone. This was supposed to be a special day. This was supposed to be the one good thing Linda could give her daughter. And now it was ruined. Completely ruined. "I want to call the police," Linda said, her voice steadier now. "He stole from us and I want to report it." Tom shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, are you sure that's necessary?" "Maybe the money just fell on the floor, or it didn't fall on the floor, he took it." "Call the police or I will." The businessman, Mr. Whitmore, didn't look worried at all. In fact, he looked almost amused. That made Linda even angrier. This was a game to him. Their suffering was entertainment. "If it will settle this matter, please call the police," Mr. Whitmore said calmly. "I have nothing to hide." Tom pulled out his phone and stepped away to make the call. Linda stood there trembling, staring at this man who had stolen from them and was now acting like he was the victim. How did people like this sleep at night? How did they look at themselves in the mirror? "You can sit down and wait, ma'am," Betty said softly, touching Linda's arm. "The police will be here soon." But Linda didn't want to sit. She didn't want to leave this man alone. Like he might disappear if she took her eyes off him. She stood there, arms crossed, glaring at him while he calmly returned to his newspaper. The minutes crawled by. The diner had gone from noisy to eerily quiet. Everyone was watching, waiting to see what would happen. Linda felt their stares like physical things pressing against her skin. She knew what they were thinking. They were probably on his side. He looked respectable, successful. She looked like exactly what she was. Broke, desperate, easy to dismiss. Mia came over and stood next to Linda, wrapping her arms around her mother's waist. "Mom, maybe we should just go." No, Linda's voice was firm. He's not getting away with this. But inside, doubt was starting to creep in. What if the police didn't believe her either? What if they took one look at this wealthy businessman and assumed Linda was lying? What if this whole thing ended with her being arrested for causing a scene? Finally, 2 police officers walked through the door. One was older, probably close to retirement, with gray at his temples. The other was younger, maybe in his late 20s. They both looked tired, like they'd already dealt with too much today and didn't want to deal with this too. "Someone called about a theft?" the older officer asked. "That was me," Linda said, stepping forward. "This man stole $20 from my table while I was in the bathroom. My daughter witnessed it." The officer looked at Mr. Whitmore, who remained seated, completely calm. "Sir, is this true?" "Of course not, officer. I've been sitting here minding my own business. I haven't stolen anything. My daughter saw him," Linda insisted. "She's 10 years old and she has no reason to lie." The younger officer crouched down to Mia's level. "Hey there, sweetie. Can you tell me what you saw?" Mia looked at her mother, then back at the officer. Her voice was small but clear. "The man came to our table. He took the $20 bill that my mom left there. Then he said something to me." The officer's expression sharpened. "He said something to you? What did he say?" Mia's forehead wrinkled as she tried to remember. He said, "Sometimes we need to lose something to gain everything." I didn't understand what he meant. Linda's heart was pounding. What kind of thing was that to say? It didn't make any sense. The older officer turned to Mr. Whitmore. "Sir, the child says you spoke to her. Is that true?" For the first time, Mr. Whitmore's expression changed slightly. A small smile played at the corners of his mouth. "Yes, I did speak to her briefly, but I certainly didn't steal any money." "Then why did you go to their table?" Linda demanded. "Why did you talk to my daughter?" Mr. Whitmore set down his newspaper and looked directly at Linda. His eyes were sharp, calculating. "Tell me something. When you realized your money was gone, what was your first instinct?" The question caught Linda off guard. "What? Your first instinct? What did you do?" I looked for it. Then I asked my daughter what happened. And when she told you I took it, I came over here to get it back. You didn't just leave. You didn't just give up. You didn't let me get away with it, even though I'm clearly wealthier than you, even though I look more respectable, even though the odds were against you being believed." Mr. Whitmore leaned forward. "You fought back." Linda didn't know what to say. The officers looked confused too. "Sir, what exactly are you getting at?" the older officer asked, his patience clearly wearing thin. Mr. Whitmore reached into his jacket pocket. Linda tensed, half expecting him to pull out her $20 and toss it at her like she was a beggar. But instead, he pulled out his wallet and extracted a business card. He handed it to the officer, who read it, and his eyes widened slightly. "Robert Whitmore, Whitmore Development Corporation." The officer looked at the businessman with new recognition. "You're the real estate developer?" "I am," Mr. Whitmore confirmed. He turned back to Lynn. Linda stared at the businessman, her mind spinning. He was admitting it? Just like that? After denying it so calmly? After making her look crazy in front of everyone, now he was confessing. "You're admitting you stole from us?" The words came out confused, angry. "I took your $20, yes, but I'd like a chance to explain before you decide what happens next." Robert Whitmore looked at the police officers. "Would that be acceptable?" The older officer frowned. "Sir, theft is theft. I'm not sure what explanation could justify—" "5 minutes," Mr. Whitmore interrupted. "Give me 5 minutes to explain, and if this young lady still wants to press charges after that, I'll go willingly." Linda wanted to scream. She wanted to tell them to arrest him right now. But something in his expression made her hesitate. There was no mockery there anymore. No amusement. He looked serious. Almost sad. "Mom?" Mia tugged on her sleeve. Linda looked down at her daughter's tear-stained face and felt her resolve waver. This whole situation was already traumatic enough for Mia. Maybe hearing what this man had to say would at least give them some kind of closure. Some understanding of why this had happened. "Fine," Linda said tightly. 5 minutes? But this better be good." The younger officer glanced at his partner, who nodded reluctantly. Tom, the manager, brought over a chair for Linda, and she sat down across from Mr. Whitmore's booth. Mia pressed against her side. The officer stood nearby, watching carefully. Several diner customers had their phones out, still recording. Linda didn't even care anymore. Mr. Whitmore took a breath and began. 27 years ago, I was broke. Not just regular broke, completely destitute. I was living in my car with my 2 kids after my wife died from cancer. The medical bills had destroyed us. I lost our house, lost everything. Linda felt a flicker of something, she wasn't sure what. But she kept her expression hard. Lots of people had sad stories. That didn't give them the right to steal. I was working 3 jobs trying to keep my kids fed, trying to keep them in school. One day it was my daughter's birthday. She was turning 9. I had exactly $30 to my name. $30 until payday, which was 4 days away. He paused, his fingers drumming once on the table. I took her to a diner. Not this one, but one very similar. I ordered her a burger and fries. I ordered myself coffee, and I was so happy to give her that one small thing. Mia had stopped crying. She was listening intently. While we were eating, a man approached our table, well-dressed, clearly wealthy. He started talking to my daughter, asking her about her birthday, being friendly. Then, right in front of me, he picked up my $30 and put it in his pocket. Linda's breath caught. The story was eerily familiar. I confronted him just like you confronted me. I demanded my money back. He refused. We argued. Other people got involved. I was humiliated, angry, desperate. Finally, the man pulled out an envelope with my name on it. Inside was a check for $20,000 and a job offer. Mr. Whitmore's voice got quieter. He told me he'd been looking for someone who was struggling but still fighting, someone who hadn't given up, who still had dignity and determination even when everything was falling apart. The diner was completely silent now. Even the kitchen sounds had stopped. Everyone was listening. That money changed my life. The job changed my life. But more than that, the lesson changed my life. That man taught me that sometimes you have to test people to see what they're really made of, and he made me promise that if I ever became successful, I'd do the same thing for someone else. Linda's hands were shaking. She didn't know what to feel. Anger, confusion, hope all swirling together in her chest. So that's what I've been doing. Once a month for the past 15 years, I come to different diners around the city. I watch, I listen. I look for someone who reminds me of who I used to be. Someone working hard, struggling, but still showing up for their family, still trying to celebrate the small moments even when they have almost nothing. He pulled out a sealed envelope from his jacket and placed it on the table. Linda's name was written on it in neat handwriting. I heard you and your daughter talking earlier about her birthday, about how excited she was just to have a burger and fries. I saw your work uniform in your bag. I saw the calculator on your phone when you were adding up the bill before you even ordered, making sure you had enough. I saw the way you tried to hide your worry from your daughter. And I knew you were the one I'd been looking for this month. Linda's eyes were burning. She didn't want to cry, not here, not in front of everyone. But tears were sliding down her cheeks anyway. But I had to be sure. I had to test you. Because life is going to test you constantly. And I needed to know you had the strength to face those tests. When I took your money, you could have just left. You could have been too embarrassed or afraid to confront a man like me. But you didn't. You stood up for yourself and your daughter. You demanded justice even when everyone was watching, even when the odds were against you being believed. He pushed the envelope across the table toward Linda. Open it. Linda's hands trembled as she picked up the envelope. Part of her was afraid to hope, afraid this was all some cruel joke. But Mia was watching her with wide eyes, and the officers were watching too, and Mr. Whitmore's expression was completely sincere. She tore open the envelope. Inside was a check. Linda had to read the number 3 times before her brain accepted what she was seeing. $50,000, made out to her name. Dated today. A sound escaped her throat, something between a laugh and a sob. There was more in the envelope. She pulled out a letter on official company letterhead. It was a job offer. Administrative manager at Whitmore Development Corporation. Salary of $65,000 a year. Full benefits. Health insurance, dental, vision, a retirement plan. Things Linda had never had in her entire working life. But there was more. At the bottom of the envelope was another piece of paper. She unfolded it with shaking hands. It was a property deed for a house on Maple Street. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, good school district. The house was paid off completely, 0 mortgage, and it was signed over to her name. I don't understand, Linda whispered. This is too much. This can't be real. It's real, Mr. Whitmore said gently. The check will clear. The job starts whenever you're ready. The house is yours, all of it, but why? You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're a hard worker. I know you love your daughter and you're doing everything you can to give her a good life. I know you have integrity and courage. That's all I need to know. Linda couldn't speak. The words wouldn't come. She just sat there holding the papers, crying silently while Mia hugged her tight. The older police officer cleared his throat. So, ma'am, do you still want to press charges? Linda let out a watery laugh. No charges. All right then. The officer shook his head, a small smile on his face. This is definitely the strangest call I've responded to in 20 years on the force. He looked at Mr. Whitmore. What you're doing is generous, sir. But maybe there's a less traumatic way to go about it? Mr. Whitmore smiled. Where's the life lesson in that, officer? Sometimes we need to face our worst moment to reach our best moment. Sometimes we need to lose something to gain everything. Those words, the same words he'd said to Mia, now they made sense. You're serious? Linda found her voice again. This is really happening? Completely serious. I'll have my assistant contact you tomorrow to go over the job details and get you the keys to the house. The check you can deposit today. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just promise me 2 things. Anything. First, promise me you'll accept this help without guilt. You've earned it through your hard work and your character. This isn't charity. This is recognition. Linda nodded, still crying. Okay, what's the second thing? Promise me that if you ever reach a point in your life where you can help someone else the way I'm helping you, you'll do it. Pass it forward. Find someone who needs hope and give it to them. I promise, Linda said immediately. I swear I promise. Mr. Whitmore smiled and stood up. He pulled out his original wallet and took out a $20 bill. He placed it on Linda's table next to her half-eaten burger. And here's your original 20 back. Plus, he placed another bill next to it, 100. Order some dessert for the birthday girl. Order whatever you want. He started to walk away, but Mia suddenly pulled away from Linda and ran to him. She wrapped her arms around his waist, hugging him tight. Mr. Whitmore looked surprised for a moment, then he gently patted her head. Thank you, Mia said, her voice muffled against his expensive suit. Thank you for helping my mom. His eyes got shiny. You're welcome, sweetheart. Happy birthday. The entire diner erupted in applause. People were clapping, some were crying. Someone whistled. Betty, the waitress, was wiping her eyes with her apron. Even Tom, the manager, was tearing up. The police officers were grinning. Mr. Whitmore waved once and walked out of the diner, leaving Linda sitting there in shock, holding papers that represented an entirely different future. A future where she didn't have to work 2 jobs, where Mia could have new clothes instead of hand-me-downs, where they'd have a real home, not a cramped apartment with thin walls, where they'd have security and stability and hope. Betty came over with a smile. So, I'm thinking we need to bring out some birthday. The next morning, Linda woke up convinced it had all been a dream. She lay in bed in her cramped apartment, staring at the ceiling with its water stains, listening to the neighbors arguing through the thin walls. Of course it had been a dream. Things like that didn't happen to people like her, but then Mia padded into her room holding the envelope. Mom, is this real? Did yesterday really happen? Linda sat up and took the envelope with trembling hands. The check was still there. $50,000. The job offer letter. The property deed. All real, all impossible, all true. She started crying again. She'd done a lot of crying in the past 12 hours. Happy tears this time, though. She couldn't remember the last time she'd cried from happiness. It's real, baby. It's all real. They spent the morning sitting on Linda's bed looking at the papers over and over, making sure the words didn't change. Linda kept expecting someone to call and say there'd been a mistake, that the offer was being withdrawn, that she'd misunderstood something. But her phone stayed quiet. At 10 o'clock it rang. Linda nearly jumped out of her skin. Hello? Is this Linda Martinez? A woman's voice, professional and friendly. Yes, this is Linda. Hi, Linda. My name is Patricia. I'm Mr. Whitmore's executive assistant. He asked me to reach out to you this morning to coordinate some details. It was real. This was really happening. Patricia was efficient and kind. They scheduled a meeting for Monday to discuss the job, go over benefits, and get Linda set up with everything she'd need. Patricia also arranged for Linda to get the keys to the house that afternoon. She'd meet them there at 3 o'clock. After hanging up, Linda looked around her apartment. She'd lived here for 5 years. The carpet was stained. The kitchen was barely big enough to turn around in. The bathroom had mold that wouldn't go away no matter how much she scrubbed. She'd hated this place, but she'd also been grateful for it because at least it was a roof over their heads. Now they were going to have a real house. With a yard, in a good neighborhood. We should go see it, Mia said, reading her mind. Can we go see our new house? Patricia said she'd meet us there at 3 with the keys. Mia looked at the clock. It was only 10:15. That's so far away, Linda laughed. How about we go to the bank first? I need to deposit this check before I lose it or something. At the bank, Linda handed the check to the teller with shaking hands. The young woman looked at it, then looked at Linda, then looked at the check again. Just a moment, please. She disappeared into a back office. Linda's heart sank. Here it comes. They're going to say the check is fake. They're going to call security. This whole thing was too good to be true. But then the teller came back with a manager, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. Ms. Martinez, I just wanted to personally welcome you and help you set up your account. This is quite a substantial deposit. We want to make sure everything goes smoothly for you. The check was real. It cleared immediately. $50,000 in Linda's account. She'd never seen so many zeros that belonged to her. The manager helped her set up a savings account too, explaining how she should probably only move over what she needed for immediate expenses and keep the rest safely tucked away. Have you thought about speaking with a financial advisor? The manager asked. With this amount of money and your new job, you'll want to start planning for your future. Retirement, your daughter's college fund, that sort of thing. College fund. Linda had never even let herself think about college for Mia. It seemed like something for other families with money and opportunities. But now it was possible. Yes, Linda said. I'd like that. I'd like to do this right. They made an appointment for the following week. Linda walked out of the bank in a daze, Mia holding her hand and practically skipping. They killed time by going to the library, one of Mia's favorite free activities. But Linda couldn't concentrate on books. She kept thinking about the house, about the job, about how her entire life had changed in 24 hours because a stranger had decided to test her character, and she'd passed. At 2:30, they drove to Maple Street. Linda had looked up the address on her phone. It was in a neighborhood she'd driven through before, always admiring the tree-lined streets and well-kept homes, never imagining she'd actually live there. She found the house and parked across the street just looking at it. It was a modest single-story home with pale blue siding and white trim. There was a small front porch with a porch swing. The yard was neat with a large tree in the front that would be perfect for climbing. Flower beds lined the walkway, currently empty but ready for spring planting. That's ours? Mia's voice was barely a whisper. That's ours. They sat in the car, neither quite ready to move yet. This didn't feel real. How could this be real? A silver Mercedes pulled up behind them, and Patricia stepped out. She was in her 50s, dressed professionally with a warm smile that immediately put Linda at ease. You must be Linda and Mia. I'm Patricia. She shook Linda's hand, then bent down to Mia's level. And happy birthday for yesterday. Mr. Whitmore told me all about you. She pulled out a set of keys and led them up the walkway. Linda's hands were shaking so badly she could barely walk straight. Patricia unlocked the door and pushed it open. Welcome home. They stepped inside and Linda had to grab the doorframe for support. The house was beautiful. Not fancy, not magazine perfect, but clean and bright and so much bigger than their apartment. The living room had large windows that let in lots of natural light. There was a fireplace currently empty, but Linda could imagine fires in the winter, Mia doing homework on the floor in front of it. The kitchen is through here. Patricia led them through an archway. It wasn't huge, but it was 3 times the size of their apartment kitchen. There was actual counter space, a full-size refrigerator, a dishwasher. Linda had never had a dishwasher. The bedrooms are down this hall. There were 3 bedrooms, just like the deed had said. The master bedroom was modest, but had a large closet and its own bathroom. The 2 smaller bedrooms were perfect for Mia, and one could be a guest room or office. There's a fenced backyard too, Patricia said, leading them through the kitchen to a back door. The yard was small but private, with green grass and another large tree. Linda could see Mia playing out here. Safe, secure, their own space. I can't believe this is ours, Linda said for probably the 10th time. Patricia smiled. It's yours. completely paid off. No mortgage. The property taxes and utilities will be your responsibility. But compared to rent, it's very manageable. Mr. Whitmore has also set up an account to cover the first 6 months of utilities, just to give you time to get settled into your new job. Linda started crying again. She was so tired of crying, but she couldn't help it. I don't understand why he's doing all this. I mean, he explained yesterday, but it's just so much. Patricia's expression softened. Can I tell you something? I've worked for Mr. Whitmore for 12 years. I've seen him do this 6 times now for 6 different families. And every single time I've watched those families transform their lives. You're not just getting money and a house and a job, Linda. You're getting a chance. A real chance to build something stable for yourself and your daughter. That's what Mr. Whitmore is really giving you. The opportunity to break the cycle. But what if I mess it up? What if I'm not good enough at the job? What if... You won't mess it up. Mr. Whitmore doesn't make mistakes about people. If he chose you, it's because he saw something in you worth investing in. Now you just have to believe in yourself as much as he believes in you. They spent another hour at the house, Patricia going over practical details, how to work the thermostat where the water main shutoff was, the trash pickup schedule, boring normal things that felt magical because they were for Linda's house, her actual house. When Patricia finally left, Linda and Mia sat on the living room floor, backs against the wall, just taking it all in. When can we move in? Mia asked. I guess whenever we want. The house is ready. We just need to pack up our stuff from the apartment. Can we move in this weekend? Linda thought about it. She was supposed to work both her jobs this weekend, but maybe it was time to make a change. She pulled out her phone and called her supervisor at the cleaning company. Hi, Steve, this is Linda Martinez. I need to let you know I'm putting in my 2 weeks' notice. It felt terrifying and exhilarating to say those words. She'd never quit a job without having another one lined up first. She'd certainly never quit both her jobs at once. But everything was different now. She made the second call to the grocery store, giving the same notice. Both supervisors were surprised but understanding. They wished her well. Just like that, Linda had cut the strings tying her to her old life. I still have to work the next 2 weeks, Linda told Mia. But we can start packing. We can move in on my last day of work. 2 weeks, Mia said, like she was tasting the words. In 2 weeks, we'll be living here. That night, back in their apartment, they started packing. They didn't have much. Their furniture was mostly secondhand and falling apart. Linda decided they'd only take their clothes, personal items, and Mia's toys. Everything else could be left behind or donated. They'd get new furniture eventually with her new salary, or they'd just sit on the floor for a while. Either way was fine. Over the next 2 weeks, Linda worked her final shifts at both jobs. Hot. Monday morning arrived faster than Linda expected. She stood in front of her bathroom mirror, the one in her own house with good lighting and no mold, trying to calm her nerves. Her first day at Whitmore Development Corporation. Her first real career job. Her first time working somewhere with actual benefits and a retirement plan. She'd bought a new outfit over the weekend with some of the money from the check. Nothing fancy, just a simple black pants and a nice blouse, but they were new. Not secondhand. Not borrowed. She looked professional. She looked like she belonged. Mia appeared in the doorway, already dressed for school. You look pretty, Mom. Thanks, baby. You ready? They drove to Mia's new school together. It was in the same district as their house, with good test scores and art programs and a library that actually had enough books. Mia had been nervous about starting at a new school, but the counselor they'd met with last week had been kind and promised to help her adjust. Linda walked Mia to the front office, where a secretary with a warm smile greeted them. You must be Mia. We're so glad to have you. Let me get someone to show you to your classroom. You'll be okay? Linda asked, crouching down to Mia's level. I'll be okay. Mia hugged her tight. You'll be okay too. We're both going to be great. Linda kissed her forehead and watched her daughter walk down the hall with a student volunteer. Then she drove to the Whitmore Development Corporation building downtown. It was a modern glass structure, the kind of building she used to clean at night, invisible to the people who worked there during the day. Now she was going to be one of those people. Security at the front desk was expecting her. They gave her a temporary badge and directed her to the 14th floor. Patricia was waiting when the elevator doors opened. Linda, welcome. How are you feeling? Terrified, Linda admitted. Patricia laughed. That's normal. Come on, let me show you to your office. Linda had an office. with a door and a window and a desk that wasn't falling apart. Patricia showed her around, introducing her to people whose names Linda immediately forgot because her brain was overloaded. Everyone was friendly, welcoming. Nobody looked at her like she didn't belong. Her job, Patricia explained, was to coordinate between different departments, manage schedules, oversee administrative staff, and help keep projects running smoothly. It sounded overwhelming, but Patricia assured her they'd train her thoroughly. "You'll shadow me for the first 2 weeks," Patricia said. "Then we'll gradually transition responsibilities. There's no pressure to learn everything at once." Mr. Whitmore stopped by her office around 10 o'clock. He knocked on the door frame even though it was his building, his company. "How's your first morning going?" "Good. Overwhelming, but good. That's normal. You'll find your rhythm." He paused. "I wanted to let you know that I meant what I said at the diner. You earned this position. I'm not doing you a favor by having you here. I expect you to work hard and do your job well. I believe you will, or I wouldn't have hired you. But I wanted to be clear that this isn't charity. You're an employee and I'm your boss. Fair?" "Fair," Linda said, grateful for the clarity. She didn't want to be anyone's pity project. She wanted to earn her place. He left, and Linda spent the rest of the day learning computer systems, filing procedures, communication protocols. Her head spun with information, but she took careful notes. She'd always been a good student when given the chance. She'd just never had many chances before. The first few weeks were hard. Linda felt stupid constantly, asking questions about things everyone else seemed to know instinctively. But nobody made her feel bad about it. Patricia was endlessly patient. The other administrative staff members were supportive. Slowly, gradually, Linda started to understand how everything worked. She also started to understand how different this job was from her previous ones. When she was sick, she had paid sick leave. When Mia had a school event, she could adjust her schedule. She got lunch breaks, actual breaks where she could sit down and eat. She had health insurance. When Mia got a cold and needed to see a doctor, Linda didn't have to choose between medical care and groceries. They just went to the doctor. The copay was $20. $20 that she had. The transformation wasn't just financial. Linda started to notice changes in herself. She stood up straighter. She spoke with more confidence. She stopped apologizing for taking up space. She bought groceries without anxiety, filling the cart with fresh vegetables and good quality meat instead of whatever was cheapest. She replaced Mia's worn-out shoes without checking her bank account first. Mia was thriving too. She'd made friends at her new school. She'd joined the art club. Her teacher said she was bright and creative and a joy to have in class. Linda went to parent-teacher conferences without the old shame of feeling less than the other parents. She belonged there. Her daughter belonged there. 3 months into her new job, Patricia called Linda into her office. Linda's stomach dropped. Was she being fired? Had she messed something up? "Relax," Patricia said, reading her expression. "You're doing great. I actually wanted to talk to you about a promotion opportunity." "A promotion? Already? You've picked things up faster than anyone I've trained before. You're organized, efficient, and people like working with you. We're expanding the department, and I'd like you to step into a senior coordinator role. It comes with a raise and more responsibility. What do you think?" Linda thought about the person she'd been 6 months ago, working 2 jobs, barely surviving, convinced she'd never be anything more than someone who cleaned other people's offices and stocked other people's shelves. That person would never have believed this moment was possible. "I think yes," Linda said. "Definitely yes." 6 months after the incident at the diner, Linda had saved enough money to buy furniture. Real furniture, not secondhand stuff that was falling apart. She and Mia spent a Saturday shopping, picking out a couch and kitchen table and a real bed frame for Mia. They bought dishes that matched and towels that weren't threadbare. They also did something else. Linda had been thinking about it for weeks and finally decided it was time. They went back to Danny's diner. Betty was working, and her face lit up when she saw them. "Well, look who it is. How are you ladies doing?" "We're good," Linda said. "Really good. Is Tom around?" Tom came out from the back and he recognized them immediately. "The birthday girls. How's life treating you?" "Life's been kind," Linda said. She pulled an envelope from her purse. Inside was a check for $2,000. "This is for you and your staff. A thank you for being kind to us that day, and for all the other families who come in here struggling, who maybe can't afford their meal. I'd like you to use this to cover meals for people who need it. Pay it forward, you know? Tom's eyes got shiny. That's really generous. It's the least I can do. They ordered burgers and fries just like that day 6 months ago. But this time Linda didn't have to count her money. This time she ordered dessert without hesitation. This time when they sang happy birthday it was early, because Mia's actual birthday wasn't for another 3 months, but they were celebrating anyway. Celebrating how far they'd come, celebrating their new life. As they were leaving, Linda saw a woman sitting alone in a booth looking worried. She had a young boy with her, maybe 7 or 8. The woman was using a calculator on her phone, adding up prices from the menu with a furrowed brow. She looked exhausted. She looked scared. She looked exactly like Linda had looked 6 months ago. Linda felt something click into place. This was it. This was her chance to pass it forward like she'd promised. She walked over to Betty. That woman over there, the one with the little boy. When she asks for the check, tell her it's been paid. And give her this. Linda pulled out a card with her name and phone number on it. On the back she'd written, "Call me if you need a job. No questions asked. You got it," Betty said with a knowing smile. 1 year after meeting Mr. Whitmore, Linda hosted a dinner at her house. She'd invited Patricia and some of her co-workers. She'd invited Betty and Tom from the diner. She'd invited the woman she'd helped, whose name was Carol, and who now worked in the mailroom at Whitmore Development and was saving up for her own place. And she'd invited Mr. Whitmore. He arrived with flowers and a bottle of wine, looking almost shy. "This is a lovely home," he said, looking around at the furniture Linda had bought, the pictures on the walls, the lived-in warmth of a house that was truly a home. Over dinner they shared stories and laughter. Mia, now 11, told everyone about her role in the school play. Carol talked about her son making the honor roll. Tom shared news that 3 more families had benefited from Linda's fund at the diner, and that other regular customers had started contributing too. After everyone left except Mr. Whitmore, Linda walked him to his car. "I never properly thanked you," she said, "for everything you did for us. You've thanked me every day by making the most of the opportunity, by working hard, by being a good mother, by helping others," and he paused. "That's what I hoped would happen. Not just that I'd change your life, but that you'd help change other lives too." "I will," Linda promised. "I am. I'm saving money, and when I have enough, I want to do what you did. Find someone who needs hope and give it to them." Mr. Whitmore smiled. "You already are doing it. Every kindness matters. Every person you help, every meal you pay for,